Okay, so I'm going to do a few problems from the review for sequence and sum. And it first says state if the given sequence is arithmetic, remember that means there's a common D, geometrically use R or neither, and find the specified terms of the sequence. So here, remember you have to go this way. Okay, and in my calculator, you can try minus 11, or negative 11, minus negative 2, and you can do the second time just to double check, negative 20 minus negative 11. And in both cases, we get negative 9. So you know that since we subtracted, that there's a common difference of negative 9, so it's arithmetic. Okay? Because it's arithmetic, you're going to use the arithmetic formula, all right? Which, you can write this down at the top if you want, it's T sub n equals T sub 1 plus n minus 1 times D. That's the arithmetic formula. Okay? So we're going to use that formula and say that I'm looking for the 101st term. So I'm saying T sub 101 is the first term, negative 2, plus n minus 1. Well, in this case, n is 101. I want the 101 term. So 101 minus 1 times my common difference, which was negative 9. So you type this part into your calculator. And so T sub 101, in other words, the 101st term is negative 902. Okay? Now let's go to a problem like this. And what you'll notice is if you try your calculator, okay, and you do 1/6 minus 1/2, and then you get 1/18 minus 1/6, you do not get the same answers. Okay, it doesn't work. So then that means that since that's subtraction, it means this is not arithmetic. There's not a common difference. So instead, you do the same thing, but you take 1/6 divided by 1/2, and then you take 1/18 and you divide by 1/6. And in both cases, you get 1/3. So therefore, R is 1/3. And since there's R, that means that it's not arithmetic, it's geometric. Okay, remember the formula for geometric is T sub n equals T sub 1 times R to the n. Sorry, that was the board that fell. So T sub 1 times R times n minus 1 power. So that's your formula. So you're going to use that formula. So I'm looking for the 6th term. So the 6th term is the first term times my common R, which is 1/3. Raised to the n minus 1 power, which in this case would be 6 minus 1, because I'm looking for the 6th term. When you type that in your calculator, you get 1/486. Okay? And then you do the same exact process all the way through for those. Now then, the next question I want to do is number 7. How many terms are there in the following sequence? I'm asking for how many terms. When you're asking for how many terms, all right, that's like you're asking for n. N equals what? Right? And if you're asking for n, okay, first you've got to decide, is this arithmetic or geometric? Well, if you look at it, 24 minus 18 is 6, and 30 minus 24 is 6. So there is a common difference of 6. So we know that it's arithmetic. So we're going to use the arithmetic formula, right? In doing so, then that means that this is the first term, this is your nth term, your last term. And I want to know what term it is. What term number is 618? So the formula says start with 618 equals 18 plus n minus 1, because we don't know n, times my common difference of 6. Now I'm just solving for n. So you distribute. So 618 equals 18 plus 6n minus 6. Put these together. So you're going to do 18 minus 6, which is 12. So you have 618 equals 12 plus 6n. Move the 12 over. So 606 equals 6n. So n is 101. So 618 is the 101st term. Now number 8, how many terms are there in the following sequence? Again, how many terms? I'm looking for n again. Okay, you have to decide now, is this arithmetic or geometric? You can test it. 36 minus 44 is negative 8. And 28 minus 36 is -8, so you don't even have to do any division. You know automatically that it's a common difference. Okay, so you're going to use the arithmetic formula. Remember, this is t sub 1 and this is t sub n. So negative 380 equals 44 plus n minus 1 times your common difference. Okay, and I'm going to stop there because this is just like number 7. You would finish it, and your answer should be 54 once you finish the math. All right, let's go to the next problem. Okay, so numbers 9 through 12, the directions are a little different. They say, find the following sum, right? And it gives you this big hint. It says, if it exists. And guys, remember, you can't always find the sum, okay? It tells you it's geometric already, so you know you're gonna look for R. But the rule is, R has to be between -1 and 1. Otherwise, there's no sum. Okay? And the other way to think about it is your series has to get smaller. You can't add up numbers. They're not going to get closer and closer if your numbers are getting bigger. So you can check this. 16 divided by 64 is 4, and 4 divided by 16, 16 divided by 64 is 1/4, and 4 divided by 16 is 1/4. So R is 1/4. And so yes, it's between this window. And you can look at it like this if you want, like a number line. Okay, so here's -1, and here's 1, and here's 0. Okay, as long as R is between -1 and 1 on a number line, you're good. And then you're going to use the formula. The geometric formula, remember, for infinite series is the sum equals your first term divided by 1 minus R. And some of you guys miss this because you type it in your calculator just like this. But remember, when you get ready to do this, if I want to find the sum, okay, it equals the term 1, 64, divided by 1 minus R. Okay, and on your calculator, so that you don't miss it on the test, okay, this is a complex fraction. You either have to get the top answer and the bottom answer, then divide, or you have to do the alpha y equals, enter. So 64 divided by 1 minus 1/4. And then it's going to give you the right answer. Math, then or enter, 256 over 3. So the sum is 256 over 3. Okay? Now then, let's go to this problem here. Okay, 3 divided by 2, and 9/2 divided by 3, that gives you R is 3/2, or in other words, 1.5. You'll notice 1.5 does not fit in here. So when you're finding the sum of an infinite geometric series, if R is bigger than 1, the answer is no sum. So you can't do that problem. All right? Now then, let's move to the number 13. Find the next two terms, that's the first step, and then find the formula or the rule. Well, the next two terms is easy. You just got to find the pattern. Right? What are you doing here? Y'all noticed? 4 minus 1 is 3, and 16 minus 4 is not 3, so it's not a common difference. You're actually just multiplying by 4, right? So if I multiply 64 by 4, I get 256. If I multiply 256 by 4, I get 1,024. So we have a common R of 4. You can find that by doing 4 divided by 1, right? And 16 divided by 4. Then it says find the rule. When asked for the rule, you're going to leave in. Since there's an R, you're going to use geometric. So T sub n, because you're finding a rule, you leave in, is 1 times 4 to the n minus 1. You always leave in. Okay, remember, you're not allowed to leave it like this. You've got to separate this into 2. So this is T sub n equals 1, 4 to the n, and then you're going to take 4 to the negative 1. And this is the problem where on your calculator you type this and this in. Okay, and when you do, you get 1/4. So the actual answer is T sub n 1/4 times 4 to the n power. Okay? All right, now in this one you'll notice that when you subtract and subtract again, you get a common difference. So this is an arithmetic, not geometric. So if you're going to write a rule, you leave all the n's. So T sub n equals the first term 7 plus leave your n is the rule, n minus 1, times your common difference, so times 5. Distribute the 5, and then combine these. So t sub n equals 2 plus 5n, or 5n plus 2, either way, that's your rule. Okay, the next one. Find the third, fourth, and fifth of the recursive sequence. Remember, this is where you have to use the previous term to get your next term. So if I'm looking for term 3, I need term 2. So that's what it says, find the third term. So we gotta find the second term first. So the second term is found, remember this represents previous term. So I'm looking for the second term, n minus 1 will be the first term. So I'm gonna put the first term, which is negative 2, right in that spot. So negative 2 squared minus 5. Okay, which would give you negative 1. So the second term is negative 1. Now you can find the third term. So t sub 3, the formula is right here. Use the previous term, which is negative 1, squared minus 5, which now gives you negative 4. So the third term is negative 4. So now we're going to find the fourth term. Okay, the rule is use the previous term, which would be negative 4 squared minus 5, which gives you 11. And then the fifth term, use the previous term, which is, it says right here, use the previous term squared, so 11 squared minus 5, which gives you 116. So the answer are these three right here. Negative 4, 11, and 116. That's the third, fourth, and fifth term. Number 16, find the number of multiples of 6. I'm looking for the number of multiples, so I'm looking for n. I want multiples of 6, right? So they have to fall between this window here. So if you start listing multiples of 6, 12, 18, 24, 36, there it is. The first multiple that falls is 36. Now, I'm not going to count all the way to 568 by 6s, so I'm going to use my calculator. I'm going to do 568 divided by 6, and there's 94 that fit in, so 94 times 6 means it's 564. So my first term is 36, and my nth term, my last term, is 564. I'm counting by 6s. That means my D is 6. So it's an arithmetic problem. And I'm looking for n. So I'm saying, okay, 564 equals 36 plus n minus 1 times 6. So solve this. 564 equals 36 plus 6n minus 6. I'm just distributing. So n is 89. So in other words, there are 89 multiples of 6 between these two numbers. All right, number 17 through 9 are these, summation. Okay, kids were having trouble with a couple of these. This just means you up the sum if you were going to plug in the numbers 8 through 12 into this. So I'm going to plug in 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. In other words, 8 through 12. And when I plug it in, I'm going to add them all up. So if I plug 8 in here, 5 minus 8 is negative 3. But these have absolute value signs, so I'm going to use 3. So 3 plus. Now I'm going to plug a 9 in. 5 minus 9 would give me negative 4. It's absolute value, so I want a 4. 5 minus 10 is negative 5, but I want the absolute value, so plus 5. And you keep going all the way. So this would be 6 and this would be 7. Then you add these numbers up on the calculator. You don't need these. These are just to help you see. So you add them all up, okay, and that gives you the sum, okay, of plugging in 8 through 12, right? We plugged in 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Those are the answers we got. We add them up and we get 25. Okay, now this one, same thing. You're going to have to plug in negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. All of those numbers, okay, into j cubed. So don't forget to put parentheses around negatives. So you're going to do this number plus and so forth. Go all the way. You add them all up and you get 91. Okay, C is a little weird. C is saying K is 1 through 5, right? So you're gonna put in numbers 1 through 5, but there's no variable to plug them into. So all it's actually saying is you want -4 that many times. So I want it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, right? So I want -4 5 times. Or you can just do -4 times 5, which is -20. Okay, so that's how you do those. This is state the first 3 terms. Guys, it just means you plug in 1, you plug in 2, and you plug in 3 into this rule. So -3 times 1 plus 4, -3 times 2 plus 4, and -3 times 3 plus 4. You just plug in each one, and you get 1, -2, and -5. And this is the same exact type. Okay, number 20. What term is -167 of this sequence? So again, I'm looking for the term number. Okay, you have to decide, it says it's arithmetic. Okay, so you don't even have to do that, just find D, and D is -8. I'm looking for N, so this is my first term, this is my nth term, my last term, and I know D, so I'm just looking for N. So -167 equals -7 plus N minus 1 times -8. You just complete the math and it becomes the 21st term. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do for now. If you have any questions, you can come by and see me. Thank you for tuning in.